A Maryland nonprofit that's received more than $60 million in taxpayer funds since 2022 stated it has yet to complete a required audit of its services.
Some experts say that shows a concerning lack of oversight. Patrick Huff from our Spotlight in Maryland team has the latest in his investigation into how nonprofits spend your tax dollars.
So why those audits haven't been completed 3 years later is certainly not a best practice.
I think it's really concerning.
And it seems like they're getting government grants before having even an audit in place.
The Baltimore City Health Department sent $61.41 million taxpayer dollars to the Connections Thru Life nonprofit since September 2022. The funds initially came through the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for its Ryan White program that serves those living with HIV, meaning CTL is subject to a required audit of its programming. However, while CTL's past 3 tax forms from 2022, 2023, and 2024 acknowledge the audit requirement, they admit that, quote, no audit has been completed. Additionally, all 3 tax forms from the nonprofit admit it is yet to complete an independent audit of its finances to verify its tax filings.
I mean, this is just clearly poor reporting.
That's Erica Harris, a professor at Florida International University focused on nonprofit accounting and governance. She said nonprofits are expected to complete a financial audit before receiving taxpayer dollars. Then, in the case of federal funding, must complete a program audit to prove the funds are spent effectively.
The fact that they've neither finished the financial statement audit and that they have essentially reported unaudited or maybe inconsistent numbers on their Form 990 is also troublesome.
It's hard to know what to make of financial statements that haven't been audited by an independent auditor.
That's Amanda Beck, a professor at Georgia State University who previously worked on the audit committee for the city of Atlanta. She said CTL needs to show it's serious about how it handles tens of millions of taxpayer dollars.
All of these different stakeholders, they deserve to be able to see how these funds are flowing through from the source ultimately to their intended recipient. And so I think what it really says about the nonprofit is that they may not really be valuing that.
Brian Mittendorf, a professor at Ohio State University who teaches courses on nonprofit financial reporting, said it's ironic that CTL would struggle with financial reporting when its role is to provide management of taxpayer dollars.
I think the unusual aspect here is just generally speaking, nonprofits that get government support or that work as fiscal sponsors, one of the things that they offer most is essentially security and governance. That's one of the big things they can bring to the table. And so an organization that doesn't have that audit, it just raises a bunch of questions as to why they're getting this support now.
CTL did not respond to questions about its auditing. A spokeswoman for the Health Resources and Services Administration, which manages the Ryan White program within the federal government, told Spotlight on Maryland that BCHD is responsible for ensuring their subrecipients comply with all applicable federal requirements, including financial management and audit requirements. A spokeswoman for BCHD told Spotlight on Maryland that CTL provided a completed audit during its last site visit. However, when asked to provide this audit, the spokeswoman said we would have to file a public information request. BCHD told Spotlight on Maryland last year that it's working to stop contracting CTL and move its fiscal management services within the city government. A spokesman for Baltimore City Comptroller Bill Henry told Spotlight on Maryland that his office does not monitor CTL as a part of its audit of BCHD. He said the city should avoid outsourcing management of taxpayer dollars when possible. Spotlight on Maryland launched our investigation into CTL last year, which discovered how CTL relies on government grants for 100% of its money, which it began receiving in 2022, just months after its founding. CTL was the only option for BCHD for its position, as the only other applicant to manage the Ryan White program backed out. CTL shares an office with Anderson & Company, which is a for-profit financial firm. Both are run by the same person, Antoine Anderson. CTL recently launched a website that lists a different address than its tax form, with the only difference being the suite number 210 and 212. We visited the office in Owings Mills to see if these suites were separate and found the door listed both the nonprofit and for-profit. We'll continue to monitor how Baltimore City manages tens of millions of federal taxpayer dollars through the Ryan White program. For Spotlight on Maryland, I'm Patrick Huff.
I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Here's another video for you to watch. Also take some time to subscribe to our YouTube channel.